the Jets are looking into trading Darrell Revis.
I did hear that. Yeah. I don't know. I guess it kind of makes sense simply because he is going to be a free agent after the season. All goes the way it is. They're probably not going to pay him. Woody Johnson basically said that yesterday. So, but listen, if they don't wind up getting a quality package in return with a couple pieces, and you know something? I think this may actually work. I think I may be getting into the chat room. This is awesome. But anyway, sorry about that. But listen, fact is, if they give them away for a couple fifth-round picks, it's not going to mean anything. They have to get high impact value in return. Much as you want to say first-round pick, I mean, there's a lot of players that don't go for first-round picks. But if you can get like a second and a third, something like that, maybe for a couple years out of him, because he is still a player who's at the peak of his career, really. I mean, he missed last season, but still playing at a very high level. Any team that takes him would wind up instantly upgrading their defense.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, though. You're saying, I mean, you could, from what we watched of him, that's easy to say, but at the same time, this guy's coming off of reconstructive knee surgery.
Mm.
So how much is he going to return to 100% form? Or, you know, I look at this one as a situation where you look at the Jets and this team, and they have such a little amount of talent that I think trading Revis is actually a really good idea. I think that if you have the ability to stockpile talent, you stockpile talent. I mean, it's a situation where you're sitting there saying to yourself, I don't know. Like, I feel like on one hand, it's like it's your best player, but on the other hand, you're like, I don't have anybody else. And I'm sorry, on an NFL team, your best player being a cornerback is not a positive thing. It's just not. I don't see that being something to be excited about. Like, our best player is a sorry, I'm losing track. I'm losing track of what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, my fault.
You know, your best player should not be a cornerback. That's pretty much the bottom line of what I'm trying to get at. But if you trade Revis, you can bring in draft picks. You can maybe bring in a player. You could maybe get some type of package deal. There's a lot of options out there of what could happen. But the real question is, what's his value to other NFL teams? You know.
Well, I mean, just to throw some names out there, I mean, you look at the teams that might be looking to upgrade their secondary. I think you have to throw the Broncos on that list simply for how they got lit up by the Ravens second half of that game. They were definitely exposed. I mean, just name a team that could upgrade their defense. I think you look at Revis, he's clearly still one of the 5 best cornerbacks out there.
I won't argue that.
Yeah. So I think there's a lot of teams with the need.
Oh, yeah, and I completely agree with that. But to me, it's a situation where you have to look at this and say to yourself, you're comparing two options. Do we keep our best player, and do we keep him on a defense that, even without him, gave up only 218 yards, or they gave up 100 and I have it written down somewhere, 189 yards a game. 190 yards a game passing without Revis this year. Number two
really
in
up,
the NFL without Revis.
Yeah.
Yet your offense couldn't do anything.
Yeah, the defense was not the problem this year for the Jets.
So why not trade this guy and try to either get some draft picks to get some talent, or trade for a good wideout in a lower round draft pick, or a good offensive lineman in a lower round draft. Like, find a team that is heavy on offense but weak on defense, and try to help balance each other out a little bit, because the Jets need help, and it is not in the secondary.
I mean, just to look at what other teams have done in that position. I mean, you look at what the Rams have done in terms of stockpiling draft picks, the way they were able to trade RG3. Basically, they traded the number 2 draft pick, and they got like 3 or 4 draft picks from the Redskins for it. I know a couple of those draft picks but didn't turn out, but they got a good piece like a Janarius Jenkins at cornerback. So, teams do it all the time. You have to trade from your area of strength And, you know, for all intents and purposes, defense is more of a strength for the Jets than the offense was. So if you could do it, what you were saying, I mean, second and third round picks, man. I don't think they're getting a first round pick for him in this league.
I don't think you need one though. To me, it's not really about where you're drafting. It's about how you draft. Are you a smart draft, a scout?
Yeah. And remember, the unwritten rule basically is the first 3 rounds, you should be able to, at least, if you have 3 picks in the first 3 rounds, you should be able to get 3 starters for the next 5 years out of it, at least.
See, I wouldn't even say starters. I'd just say guys that should be on your roster.
Yeah, guys who contribute.
Be part of my 48 or 49 guys that I dress every Sunday.
And not just that, but guys who will have an impact. Like you said, maybe not starters, but like guys who can come in and fill roles.
Yeah. Give me a pass rusher. Give me this. Give me that.
Yeah.
And like that's what, like I said, the Jets really are. Revis is done after this coming season anyway with his contract. There's a clause in his contract that says you can't franchise tag him. There's a clause in his contract that says he can't hold out. So either which way, he's got to play for the Jets this year, and they got to stick with him when it comes down to contractual. But trading him.
And I will say the other team that the team trading for him has to think about in terms of giving up a lot, is this a guy you want to re-sign long term? Because you know how it was with, just to compare different sports, but the Dickey thing. Blue Jays wouldn't have given up as much as they gave up if they had to take the 1-year deal. They wanted the window to negotiate. Obviously, they don't really do the windows in football, but you got to figure a team that is going to give up a considerable amount of their draft for the next couple of years, and that's basically what it's going to be. You got to figure Revis isn't going for another NFL player.
Not unless you're talking a Pro Bowl caliber player, and most teams don't like trading those guys.
You're not really going to get younger NFL players. You're going to get the draft picks for them. So, and draft picks are really, they're thought of as commodities in the NFL, especially the last few years. We see how teams build through the draft. Just look at the Niners. So, but the fact is, for a team to give up that much, they have to decide how long he's going to be with them and how much they want to spend on him if he's going to be there more than 1 year.
Well, apparently he said he's going to be looking for $16 million a year.
Yeah, no doubt.
I'm sorry. Maybe it's the guy that plays Madden that's inside of me that hates that. I don't think there's a cornerback in the NFL worth $16 million. Because to me, I more believe in the get to the quarterback in your secondary. Look, you go back to the 2 Super Bowls the Giants won, and their secondary played amazing. But you know why they played amazing?
Because they had
such a pass rush. They, instead of covering for 3 seconds, they had to cover for a second and a half.
The one thing I will say, and I agree with what you just said, but when Revis was in his prime, we know the Revis Island, all that stuff, he basically took out whoever he was matched up against for the entire game. And he was able to do that on a consistent basis. But the problem is when he comes back, is he still going to be at that elite level? And that's why he wants the money, because he feels like he did produce at an elite level. But for NFL teams, it's a question of, are you paying for something that's definitely going to happen in the future, or are you just paying for his past accomplishments?
And I think that's a really good question or way to look at it is, am I giving you $16 million a year for what you did or for what you're going to do? And that's actually a really, really good way to figure it out. And that to me is just one of the few reasons why I don't think they're going to be able to move him unless they're willing to take a hit.
Yeah.
And they can't afford to take a hit.
If you think about it, basically any contract for an extended period of time is initially based on what the player has done. And if the player doesn't produce at the level they're expecting, that's basically all they paid for, what they did before they got there. Yeah. And if they do well, then they justified the contract. But if not, they paid for past accomplishments.
Yeah, pretty much. Now, when it comes down to the trade, I really think that this is. I don't see it happening. I don't.
I kind of don't either.
I think it would be a good idea for the Jets, but I don't see it actually taking place. A, because of all the money that he's going to want. B, because of him coming off of a knee injury. And C, just for the simple fact of the matter is, it's not like he has the greatest reputation off the field when it comes down to dealing with the organization.
Yeah.
After, the holdout and this and that and, all that nonsense, a few years ago.
I mean, you mentioned it, and if it's for real, you did say there's a clause in the contract he can't hold out this year.
There's a clause in the contract so that he can't hold out this year, but at the end of the year, the team cannot franchise tag him.
That is very true.
And that contract's going to go wherever he goes.
So basically, if a team is going to trade for him, it has to be a team that has that all-in mentality and feels that they are one cornerback away from competing. And I throw Denver's name out there again because you look, they have the pass rush. They're going to have the offense again. It's all about how much they feel that secondary is going to make or break them. Because you put Darrell Revis on there. Now where Champ Bailey was getting burned by the number one receiver, either you don't have to bring him back or you can slide him into kind of a lesser role where maybe he excels on like the number 2 of the slot guy or something like that. That would be a depth move for Denver. It would move everybody back a step.
See, it's funny that you say Denver because I was actually
That's the only one I can
I was
think of,
thinking
truthfully.
Houston.
That's not a bad one either.
I mean,
Problem is
their secondary got torn apart in the last half of the year.
I'm going to be honest. I know they have a couple guys. What's his name? Jonathan Joseph. They have a couple really good cornerbacks. I can't remember if they were hurt or not. I know they were hurt at various points throughout the season.
Joseph was hurt coming into the year, but they actually were pretty healthy when they started getting torn apart. It was to me the biggest issue for them was Cushing. When they lost Cushing, I felt like that they lost their quarterback on defense, and I feel like that really hurt them personally. But
it's not a bad move. I think both, and I could be wrong. I think both cornerbacks are being paid a lot of money, though.
Oh yeah, I'm just throwing out a team that
it's not a bad one. It's
really could could use it. I guess you would say, and that's the thing. The options are limited. The teams that can afford to pay him what he's going to want are limited. That I just don't see the trade happening. I don't. Even though, like I said, I think it's a good idea, I just don't see it happening.